Hi, I'm Dennis Phillips, and welcome to Everyday Reloading and Shooting.
All right, we're back at the Georgia Gun Club, and in a previous video, I was shooting H335 powder with 55 grain full metal jacket bullets. I found one load that I could probably develop a little bit, but my overall conclusion was that I think that powder would perform better with a heavier bullet. So today I'll be testing H335 powder with a 73 grain ELD match bullet. I'll be shooting 10 5-shot groups from 21 grains to 23.7 grains. Normally I'll shoot 2 5-shot groups of each and I will average those, but this time out I'm only shooting 1 5-shot group at each charge weight, and I'll be stepping down in 0.3 grain increments from 21 to 23.7. All right, so let's get this show on the road. As always, you're welcome to enjoy the music while I fast forward through my shooting, or you can skip forward to the results at the end. Shooting at 100 yards. All right, I had probably 5 or 6 failures to fire because of bad primers. I cycled the bolt again, tried a second time when it didn't fire, still didn't fire, tried it a third time, still didn't fire. After shooting the group, I reloaded some of those back into the magazine and tried again, still did not fire, so obviously just bad primers. And these were in the Winchester 41 group, so I was kind of surprised about these. So this was my fouling group, and it was shooting way high, as you can see. And then on my first target, it was kind of a mixed bag because I had several that were clustered right here high and then one shot low here. On the next group, still shooting high, so I adjusted it 1 click down and shot this group. Pretty tight here, but I only got 2 shots in because of bad primers. Or I had another situation with a flared case neck, and I'll show you that when I do the analysis later on at home. Had a fairly tight 4-shot group here, a little scattered, a little over an inch here. We had 3 pretty tight here, a couple of flyers. Only 3 shots here, but 2 were pretty close together with 1 flyer. Then I get to 23.4 grains, and I've got a pretty tight group here. And then at 23.7 grains, this is the max charge weight. That was my best group of the day. That's going to be just under an inch with 3 clustered together right there at my point of aim. So we will take these home, measure them, analyze them, and get back to you. Okay, so I had an interesting day at the range today, shooting 73 grain ELD match bullets with H335 powder and Winchester 41 primers. I had 10 failures to fire on this, and part of this was my responsibility, and part of it I think was not. I got a new set of Hornady dies, and I did not have those properly adjusted. And so if you look at these 6 rounds, you can see how the top of the shoulder is flared out, and that caused these to not chamber in my rifle. And so there was no primer strike because they wouldn't go into the chamber. So I've consulted with my reloading group on Facebook, All Things Reloading, and unanimously I have been told that my bullet seating die was not adjusted correctly, that I'm putting a crimp in there before the bullet seats. I thought I had adjusted correctly, but what I have done is I have now readjusted that die, taking one of the longest rounds and backing that off a bit so that there's not going to be any crimp on the bullet going forward. And then I had 4 other rounds here. The shoulders are fine here, but the problem with these is the primers failed. In fact, I attempted to fire these multiple times. I would raise the bolt, pull the trigger again, raise the bolt, pull the trigger again, raise the bolt, pull the trigger again, and would not fire. There were 2 that I had a failure to fire on, but I raised the bolt, pulled the trigger again, and they did fire, but these would not. In fact, after I had finished shooting the groups that would fire, I loaded these back into the magazine and tried them again, and they still would not fire. So this is Winchester 41 primers. Out of 50 that I loaded, I had 4 where the primers failed. And I don't know if the primers would have failed on any of these because they never chambered in the rifle. So anyway, putting that aside, let's take a look at the results. Now, if you've watched me shoot, you know that normally what I'll do is I'll test a load with 2 5-shot groups. And in this case, on this target, I only shot 1 5-shot group at each charge weight. So I started at 21 grains and I went down to 23.7 grains. So I was stepping up 0.3 of a grain on each load. So 21, 21.3, 21.6, 21.9, 22.2, 22.5, and so forth to 23.7. And so where I had a failure to fire, I marked that with a red circle. I made a note of it. So in this case, on the first group, and this was really strange because my first shot was way down here. So the first group, I had 3 here at 0.77, but the overall group, because of this flyer down here, was 302, and that's at 21 grains. Then at 21.3 grains, I had an extreme spread of 1 inch. I had 1 failure to fire, and so the ones that grouped together, there's actually 2 right here through the same hole, but I had a 0.69 group minus the flyer out of that. At 21.6, I had 1 failure to fire. I had a group of 0.63 inches, and there's 2 right here. There's 2 bullets through that 1 hole right there. And if you take away the worst shot, you've got it's not a best 4 out of 5, but it's the best -1 of 0.46. Then over here at 21.9 grains, I had 3 failures to fire, but my group size was 0.72. So I'm still measuring that as a group because it's not really, well, it's partly my fault that there were some failures to fire, the ones that wouldn't chamber. But the ones where there was no primer strike, I'm not going to take blame for those. At 22.2 grains, we had one failure to fire, but we had an extreme spread of 0.94, and the best out of those minus the worst one shot was 0.88. At 22.5 grains, it opened up a bit, and we had a group of 1.33, and the best 4 out of 5 was 1.15, and we were shooting to the right here, so I moved the scope one click to the left. Okay. Then at 22.8 grains, we had a group of 1.31 with the best 4 out of 5 at 102. At 23.1 grains, we had 2 failures to fire, and the extreme spread was 153 minus the worst shot left us a group of 0.58. And then at 23.4 grains, this may be the load that we want to develop here between this and the last load. But we had 1 failure to fire. The group size on the extreme spread was 0.88, but the best 4 out of 5, or I guess the best 3 out of 4, was also 0.88 because of the shape of the group. And then at 23.7 grains, we had an extreme spread of 0.94 with the best 4 out of 5 at 0.80. So that's a pretty decent looking group right there. We had 3 that clustered together really well right there. So overall, we had 6 out of 10 that were an inch or under, which is not bad. So a heavier bullet did perform better with this H335 powder, which was what I was expecting. Although I'm going to do this again. I'm probably going to run this same test again. Now that I've reset my die, I shouldn't have any failure to fire resulting from a failure to chamber. And of course, I don't have any control over the fact that you have a hard primer strike and it doesn't fire at all. I have no control over that. But in any event, these are my results from today, and I'm going to continue to work on this load, the 73 grain with H335. I'm probably going to try to develop some loads around here because this was 0.63 and 0.72, even though we only had 4 and 2 shots there. Those still grouped pretty well right there. And then going with that higher charge weight between 23.4 and 23.7, we'll probably zero in there as well. Okay, those are my results, and I'll see you next time. So if you have any ideas or thoughts about this video, please feel free to leave a comment below. Or if there's anything that you would like to see in the future, please let me know that. I always try to interact with everyone who comments. And I hope that you will like and share this with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.